The morning sun rose gently over this peaceful village. Birds sang from the trees as people hurried to the market, greeting one another with smiles. At the edge of the village stood the biggest house anyone had ever seen. It belonged to Mama Rose, a 95-year-old widow. She had everything money could buy: cars, land, and a beautiful mansion. But she had no one to share her life with. Her husband had died many years earlier, and she had lost her only son and daughter. Every day, the silence inside the mansion reminded her how lonely she was. That morning, she sat in her rocking chair, holding an old photograph of her husband. "I miss you," she whispered with tears in her eyes. A servant brought her breakfast. "Mama, your food is ready." She looked at the table and shook her head. "Take it away, food cannot fill an empty heart." Across the village lived David, a 25-year-old motorcycle mechanic. He was poor but honest. Every day he worked hard to earn enough money to eat. Though life was difficult, he never stopped helping others. One afternoon, Mama Rose walked slowly through the market with her walking stick. Suddenly, she stumbled and the stick fell to the ground. People looked at her but continued walking. Then David ran over. "Mama, are you okay?" He picked up the walking stick and gently helped her stand. "Thank you, my son," Mama Rose said with a smile. "It is my duty to help," David replied. "My parents taught me that every elderly person deserves love and respect." For the first time in many years, Mama Rose smiled from her heart. The next day, David visited Mama Rose to see how she was feeling. She welcomed him warmly. They sat together on the veranda. She served him tea. They talked for hours. Mama Rose told him stories about Nigeria many years ago when there were no mobile phones or computers. David laughed at her funny stories. In return, he told her about his dreams of opening a big automobile workshop one day. Day after day, David visited. Sometimes he repaired broken chairs around the house. Sometimes he read newspapers to Mama Rose because her eyesight had become weak. Sometimes they simply sat together watching the sunset without saying a word. The mansion, once filled with silence, was now filled with laughter. But now everyone was happy. Soon the villagers began to gossip. "Have you noticed that young man always visited the old woman?" one woman asked. "He must be after her wealth," another replied. "He is pretending to love her so he can inherit everything," a man added. The rumor spread throughout the village. David heard the cruel words. They broke his heart. "I don't want people to think I am using her," he said sadly. Without saying goodbye, he stopped visiting. Every evening, Mama Rose waited on the veranda. She looked toward the road, hoping David would appear, but he never came. One day became three. Three became 7. Weeks passed. Her smile disappeared. She whispered to herself, "Did I lose another person I love?" One rainy afternoon, David finally gathered the courage to return. He knocked softly on the door. Mama Rose opened. The moment she saw him, tears filled her eyes. "I thought you had forgotten me," she said. David lowered his head. "I am sorry, Mama. The whole village says I'm only after your money. I did not want to bring shame to your name." Mama Rose smiled gently. She held his head. "David, listen to me." He looked into her eyes. Love is not always about romance. Sometimes love means caring for someone when everyone else walks away. You brought joy back into my life. You became the family I thought I had lost forever. David could no longer hold back his tears. You became the grandmother I never had. He said, "After my parents died, I felt alone. You gave me a home." They embraced as tears rolled down their faces. Months later, Mama Rose became seriously ill. Doctors visited every day, but her strength continued to fade. David never left her side. He fed her, he read the Bible to her, he prayed with her. One quiet evening, Mama Rose smiled. "David, yes, Mama. Promise me you will never stop being kind even when people misunderstand you." "I promise." She gently squeezed his head. "Thank you for loving an old woman who had nothing left to offer except her heart." She closed her eyes peacefully. A smile remained on her face. Mama Rose was gone. David cried like a child. At the funeral, the entire village gathered. The lawyer stood before everyone. "I have Mama Rose's final will." The crowd became silent. She had donated her entire wealth to build an orphanage, a free hospital for the poor. The villagers looked at one another in surprise. The lawyer continued. "She had appointed David as the manager because, in her own words, he never loved my money, he loved me when I was lonely." The villagers lowered their heads in shame. They had judged him without knowing the truth. 1 year later, a beautiful orphanage stood where an empty piece of land had once been. A large sign read, "Mama Rose Children's Home." Children laughed as they played football, others studied in bright classrooms. David walked among them with a smile. He looked up at the sky. "Thank you, Mama Rose. Your kindness is still changing lives." The wind blew gently through the